Let's start with a typical business scenario. We'll refer to this scenario throughout the program, as well as invite you to think about your own influence situations as we progress through the program. So let's start. You are Tom Toohey, the project manager for an IT initiative which will involve two key departments and have an impact on many more in the business. This project is the result of a company-wide audit focused on improved efficiencies, which is of vital interest to the CEO. The audit identified human resources processes, including such things as hiring, salary, vacation, performance reviews, promotions, etc., as inefficient and unnecessarily costly. It suggested changing to computerized processes that would require everyone to use online forms and procedures rather than the inefficient paper-based systems they're using now. The goal of the project is to ensure everyone is utilizing the new online procedures by the end of the financial year. It's now October, and the financial year is the end of June. Your challenge is compounded by the fact that you have been with the organization for just over a year, and you don't know the key executives well. You do, however, have extensive experience in projects of this nature. As a first step, you decide to have a discussion with some of the key stakeholders. These will be vital meetings, as they can significantly affect the project. If these discussions are successful, you can start to work with others within their departments to begin gathering some of the information you'll need to ensure the success of the project. You identify the first key stakeholder you'll need as the director of the Human Resources Division. Her name is Jen Jones. Jen has been with the business for many years and has been intimately involved with the development of the current paper-based system. Even though you don't know her well, she has a reputation for being conservative and risk-averse. However, you have heard that she's quite friendly and likes to be included and valued by the organization. She also enjoys a chat and is well regarded in the business. You guess that she will be slightly defensive of the existing procedure and be reluctant to be told that they aren't efficient and that things need to be done differently. You also know that Jen has lost a key staff member, creating pressure to deliver on all her KPIs. Communication of these changes is vital to ensure that they're implemented. As such, you decide that you will need the support of the director of the Communications Division to contribute resources and expertise to the development of a communications strategy. His name is Don Davis. Don is extremely busy and has many other projects underway. He will likely see this as additional and unwanted work for him and his team. Furthermore, he will probably regard your project as an unwelcome distraction from his more high-profile public relations and marketing responsibilities, which he enjoys. Don enjoys being at the center of projects which get a lot of attention. You've heard that Don has very high expectations and needs to be convinced of the results of any project. You've been thinking about who else can help you to influence Jen and get her to accept the fact that she needs to be involved heavily and make changes to the existing HR systems. Ultimately, people will have to adopt these changes, but you want them to come on board willingly. So there's our scenario, a typical business situation. What we'll do for the rest of the program is to take you through our approach to influencing the two key primary stakeholders, Jen and Don. It goes without saying that there will be many other individuals who we would need to influence in this type of scenario, and we can't address all this during this program. However, our approach to influencing will help you map out a strategy for each stakeholder in your own influence situations. On this slide, you'll see our influencing ladder used as a planning tool to assist in your approach for any influence scenario you're faced with. What we'll do is go through each step of the influence ladder, discuss theory as well as application of the theory to the scenario. Now that we have provided a scenario as a reference point throughout the program, let's start to plan. Remember the 7 steps on our ladder. Let's look at each in the order we discussed earlier. Remember, our first consideration when influencing is to think about our stakeholders and try to understand as much about them as possible relevant to the situation. So our first question in our first step is, who do I need to influence and why? In answering this question, think of all the people who could help influence a successful outcome, either directly or indirectly. Let's take a look at our scenario. The two key players for the purposes of our discussion are Jen, Head of Human Resources, and Dawn, Head of Communications. Both would be considered decision makers, as both can say no to your suggestions. Of course, there would be others in the scenario who are not decision makers, but could be key influencers to Jen and Dawn, people that Jen or Dawn have worked with and trust. We won't go into this in this scenario, but it is worthwhile asking ourselves the question, who else could influence the key players? Now think about your own influencing situation and what level of influencing authority your stakeholders have. Remember that just because they're not directly involved in the decision doesn't mean we should overlook them, because they can play a part in our influencing strategy. Second question, what is their communication style? We're all different, aren't we? We like to be communicated with in different ways. We have different communication styles. So what are communication styles? Well, very simply, they are the way in which people interact and exchange information with others. Understanding this can help us improve our relationships by helping us approach people in a way that builds comfort with them, as well as the ability to tailor our messages to suit them. You've probably heard people say things like, "Oh, she's very direct," or "He's very friendly and amiable." So let's talk a bit about style. Let's talk about 4 key styles which tend to show up in the way people communicate. Of course, it's worth mentioning that we all have attributes of each of the 4 styles I'm about to discuss, but we tend to dominate in one more often than the others. Direct. People who appear to be more direct tend to communicate more concisely and to the point. For example, when asked a question, they'll tend to be more succinct in response without a lot of elaboration. They can be decisive and make decisions quickly. Typically, they're very interested in the end result or the bottom line. You may hear them ask, "What will this deliver?" And "When will we see a return?" And of course, "How much is this going to cost?" Analytical. This style of person is interested in the detail. Their decision-making is more considered, as they may want to weigh up the options before making a decision. You may hear questions such as, "Why are we proceeding this way?" and "How will we make it happen?" How did you come to that point of view? How do you know that this is correct? Amiable. People who are more amiable in style tend to be more personable and agreeable. They seem to want to know you and have time for you and others. They may enjoy a bit of small talk. You may hear them ask questions which are people-related, such as, "Who's going to be working on this project?" and "How will we be working on it?" Expressive. The expressive style will often be interested in the bigger picture and less interested in the detail. They can come across as enthusiastic and energetic. You may hear them ask "what" questions, such as, "What will the business look like when we have concluded this project? And if we could achieve XYZ, what do you think would happen?" Let's do a simple example to illustrate the different styles. Pretend you're a departmental manager talking with your team. Let's imagine you have a project outside of their normal job specifications, which you think they should get involved in. Based on the range of style here is the type of response you may get to illustrate each style. Direct. Okay, how much of my time will it take, and what will the project deliver to the business? Analytical. Okay, let me think about it. Let me have a look at my schedule, look at my current workload, and draw up a critical path of how I could fit it in. Amiable. Sounds like fun. Just let me know what role you think I can contribute to the most. I'll go along with what you believe is best. Who else will be working on the project? Will I have to work closely with them? What will the project mean to the other members of the team? Expressive. Wow, sounds great. Let's get started. Will I get recognition for this? These are just examples to illustrate the differences in styles. It's important to remember that no style is better or worse than others. They're just different. Let's reflect back on our scenario. What dominant styles do you think Jen and Dawn are? It appears that Dawn could be more of a driver. The signals for this are that Dawn is primarily interested in the bottom line of anything he gets involved in. Jen appears to be more amiable. Signals of this are she's personable, but wants to be involved. So how does this knowledge help us? It helps us to know how to go about approaching them. For example, with our amiable, Jen, we may wish to spend more time building rapport up front before getting to the issue at hand. We might try to find a way to connect with her prior to the meeting, perhaps, for example, over coffee, to build trust with her before meeting with her more formally to discuss the business issues. With our driver, Dawn, we would approach him more directly. Help him to understand what the results will be for the business and for him, focusing on time and financials. We would get to the point more quickly, and we would be quite succinct and to the point. Of course, a key strength of a good influencer is the ability to be aware of the other party and pick up on subtle signals that indicate how we should approach the person. Another question to ask ourselves when trying to understand what's important to our stakeholders is what are the things which are important to them which might affect decision-making? Let's call these our stakeholders' motivating factors. People are motivated to say yes or no for both rational and emotional reasons. Rational reasons are the more measurable or tangible reason. Things like the following: price, cost savings, time it will take, it fits within budget, ROI, and features of the solution. These are straightforward, and often the stakeholder will tell us these. They may say things like, "This will take up a lot of my team resources," or "This looks expensive." Emotional reasons. These are less measurable and tangible and could include things like feeling valued, ego, pride, looking good, fear, anxiety, reputation, fairness, loyalty, tradition. These can sometimes be spoken to us by the stakeholder, but often they're unspoken. We might think that if the rational needs, for example, cost and timing, are right for our stakeholder, then that will be enough to get them to agree. But if they have a level of fear or anxiety about making a decision, because this has never been done before and maybe could affect their reputation, the likelihood is you will need to address these points and create a level of comfort to get them to agree. Even if the cost and timing are right for them, they still may not agree. Just think about the last time you bought an iPhone or a computer. Did you buy it because of its technical excellence and price? Surely that played a huge part in your decision-making. You may also have thought about having the most modern brand that would make you look cool to others. You may have even bought a more expensive iPhone because of the popularity or the company's reputation. These are more emotional needs. Let's go back to our scenario. What are the needs and motivators for Jen and Dawn? Rationally, Jen needs to deliver her KPIs in the absence of one staff member. Emotionally, she may be worried about looking bad, for fear for her own professional reputation. She probably has a high degree of pride in the work she's already delivered when putting together the paper-based solutions. This may indicate the need for respect and recognition for what she has already achieved. Dawn, rationally, is likely to be interested in the time required to do the job and the amount of team resources needed to develop a communication strategy for the project. Emotionally, he could have a need for recognition by the CEO and to be seen as a major contributor to saving all the departments in the company time in completing the necessary information. Now turn to your influence planning checklist, which you downloaded before starting the course, and think about a situation in which you need to influence. Focus only on stakeholder analysis at this stage. Think about your stakeholders and answer the following. Who are they? What is their communication style? What are their motivating factors? Okay, now you've started your plan to influence your stakeholders by completing one of the most important things, understanding your stakeholders. This understanding will help you achieve results while developing strong business relationships. Now, based on who we're influencing, we can start to think about what our goals are and setting an objective in Module 2.